Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and I'm standing outside a house that would be perfect for a house hack, or maybe for the right person for a house hack. And we're gonna walk through the house, talk about house hacking, what it means. It's basically when you buy a house and rent out part of it to help with a mortgage payment. And we'll talk about why this house might be good for that, why it might be bad for that, and lots of different things like zoning, repairs, things to watch out for. And this house is currently for sale in Greeley, Colorado. So this is not one of my houses. We do a lot of flips and rentals. This is one for sale right now for $340,000, 2-unit property. You could live in one unit and rent the other one. So I want to do an example of this house and show you exactly what the numbers would be, the costs, all of that. So thank you to Brad Clarkson, who's letting us do this for his listing. And of course, check out investformore.com for much more information on our flips, rentals, being an agent, all of that great stuff as well. And we love the likes and comments, so keep those coming. So here is the outside of the house, and it's Fun Car Friday, so we do have the Supra out today. And the first thing to mention is this is a somewhat busy road. It's not crazy busy, but it's a little busy. So that's something to think about when you're buying houses, when you're buying real estate, just because the busier the road is, the harder it can be to sell the property, and that's something to consider. And it can be a little noisy too. So ideally, you wouldn't be on a busy road, but you don't always have your choice. Now in this area we're at too, one block over is the old Craftsman house flip we did, which was 2 units too, that we sold a year or two ago, with a huge giant octopus furnace. So we'll try to. Here is the Craftsman we sold with the giant furnace that we took out in the basement. And so that was a 3-bedroom up, or was it 2-bedroom up? 1 bath, then it had a 2 or 3 bedroom basement apartment too. So that one definitely had more rental potential. Bigger house, but be much more expensive now. Link to that video, that would have been a great house hack too. And then 2 blocks that way is the old 2-story that we restored with the wood trim and hardwood, and we ended up losing money on that deal, but it's still a really cool property. There's a 2-story we redid, and there are people in the yard, so I wasn't trying to do too many videos, but the yard looked really horrible for a while after we bought it, but I think it's because they're completely planning to redo it, and that's what they're doing right now, so that made us feel better about that one. So for this, house hacking can be an amazing way to get started in real estate with less money. So why would you want to house hack? What's the point of renting out the property while you live here? Well, the first main thing to know is if you live in the house, so you buy a house as an owner-occupant, you have access to low money down loans. So you can buy a house for 3.5% down with FHA, 3 to 5% with a conventional loan if you live in the house, 0 down with VA, with USDA, there's 0 down. There's so many different programs out there for owner-occupants. Now, if you live in the house, you can still rent it out, but you have to live in it with those owner-occupied programs. So you can't buy the house and pretend to live here. You have to actually live here, and usually the requirement is you live here a year. So after you live here a year, you could move out and rent out the whole house. But with the house hacking, you could live up here in this top unit and then rent the basement unit. So they're separate units, it's all legal. And it's a great way to build wealth because you can get that low money down loan and still have an investment property because you're collecting rent, which helps pay your mortgage, makes your costs much lower. Now, a lot of people say, oh, $340,000 is really expensive. And a lot of you say, well, $340,000 is really cheap. So it's important to know every market's different. Prices are different everywhere, and a lot of that just depends on supply, demand, utility costs, water costs, land costs, all of that. So this house could be cheap for some people, expensive for other people, but we'll look at those numbers and payments here at the end of the video. We'll get all those numbers for you so you can see exactly what your payment would be and what the rent might be to help cover that as well. So house hacking is also great because one problem you run into when you're trying to buy investment properties and build wealth is it can be tough qualifying for property. So let's say you buy a house to live in, you're not house hacking, you're just living there, but you want to live there a year and then rent it out. That could be a great way to do things too. But when you move out, right, the banks, you know, if you want to buy another house, the banks will say, hey, you know, you just moved out of this other house and you're not selling it. Where's the income, or how are you going to pay for that? And you say, well, I'm going to rent it out. Well, some banks will say, well, that's great, but you haven't rented it out yet, so we can't count it as income. But if you have part of it rented out as a house hack, that income will probably count. So if you've had it rented for a year, maybe a little longer even sometimes with some banks, that income will now count towards your debt to income ratio, towards qualifying for a new house. So when you house hack, it's not just a low money down payment. It's not just, you know, helping with the mortgage. That's kind of cool. It will help you buy another house too after you decide to rent this one out, because you have some income coming in for rent. That is really cool. I have no idea what it's for. Maybe some of you guys know if you can tell me. But it's in a closet, just a really cool built-in. So that's the real basics of house hacking. So I also want to talk about this house too, of what to look for when you're going to house hack. So to buy a house as an owner-occupant, properties have to be in livable condition, right, to get the loan. You can't just buy a house that's gutted, that needs completely remodeled. The appraisers, the banks will not lend to you. So things to watch for are broken windows. These windows are older, but they're not broken. Making sure the electrical works, right? Making sure the plumbing works. Making sure the roof is okay. Making sure there's no holes in the drywall, holes in the floor. So you can have subfloor, bare floor. You just don't want holes like going down to the basement in your floor. You also want to make sure the heating system works. There's no peeling paint. If it's an older house, if it's built before 1978 and it has peeling paint, that can disqualify you for an owner-occupant loan. So there's some basic things you have to get that loan, but you can have a house that needs some work and needs some updates. Like this house is not in bad shape. You could paint it. You could replace the windows at some point. You can do some work to it to increase its value, but it's not in such rough shape that you can't buy it as an owner-occupied. So that's why this property is kind of perfect for a house hack, because it has what I think is a pretty decent price for a 2-unit. So those are very valuable right now. Everybody wants a 2-unit because you can house hack, because income properties are really hot right now. And it's in good enough shape for an owner-occupant to buy. So those are two big bonuses, and why I chose this house too, to show everyone. And we'll take a look at the basement here. I have not been down here yet, so I haven't turned on lights or anything, but we'll leave it as a surprise. And something else, I want to thank the agent, Brad, I said, for letting us do this, because I've tried to do videos on a couple of other properties, and literally the agents never responded to me at all. So even though they're getting free marketing and a free video on their property, no response. So it's also very important to choose and pick a very good agent to help you out when you're doing a house hack, selling a house, whatever it is, because they are not all equal, that's for sure. All right, so looking down here, this is one thing to consider too, right? Here's your laundry for both units. So I can go back upstairs real quick. When you have an up-down duplex like this, perfectly legal to have a duplex in the basement here, you know, you would have your access to here from this back door. So this is your access to the basement unit, and then you could put a door in. There's no door right here, but you can tell there used to be a door right there. You put a door in right there so that you can lock. So the downstairs unit can't get to your upstairs unit. But you come down here, and what they've done, oh, and this carpet is falling down behind me as I step on it. I'll fix it. You've got your laundry right here, and then, you know, a bedroom here, and then the rest of the unit here. So this might take a little bit of work, or I don't know how you want to handle that, because you kind of have to go into the basement unit to access the laundry room. Now, unless that other room we just went into is a bonus room used by both parties, and you just have, and this is the entrance door to your second unit. That could be how they have it set up. You can see it has nice new windows down here, so that's great. This must be your living room. Something else to look for, it's got baseboard heat down here. I don't remember what it was upstairs. That's something to look for, what kind of heat it is. And of course you can get a home inspection too, you know, when you get the house under contract, so that of course, get a home inspection to know how everything works, what to look out for, what to do. A good inspector can really help with that. So we had the living room back there. You've got your bathroom down here, which isn't horrible. You know, it's not like a grand bathroom, but it's not in horrible shape. You know, this could be a rentable unit right here as it is so far. We've got our kitchen right here. So again, nothing super fancy, but it's got a dishwasher, that's a bonus. A lot of these basement kitchens won't have a dishwasher. It's got kind of a weird open space back there. Not the end of the world. Sink, fridge. So not bad so far. And then you've got a bedroom right here. The flooring looks fairly new. Another newer window. Closet, no closet doors. That's not a big deal. Like I said, it's really is perfect for kind of an owner-occupant house hack because it just needs a little bit of work, but not much. And so when houses need just a little bit of work, it usually means you can get them a little bit cheaper, which is a good thing. So, and we'll also look at when I do the numbers, I'm going to pull the numbers back when I get to the office and rent and everything. We can look at what this property would rent for total after you move out, and then kind of figure out what it would be worth at that point, fully rented too, to see what kind of a good deal it is then. So definitely something to think about with this house hack. If it was a house hack or a basement unit, your one bedroom's there, your other bedroom is right here, kind of off the common area. And you can see right here, they had kind of like a padlock thing right there. So I think that's what they did. They just locked this room and said, hey, its access is off the common area, but you know, just realize you got to lock your door too if you don't want everybody hanging out in your room with you. So again, a little bit of work, you know, some of the carpets in here is a little older, not bad. A little bit of a weird configuration with that, but I don't think it's the end of the world either. And if you, oh, that's probably where your furnace is right here. Oh, that's something to check out right now. If it's a legal bedroom, we can't, not the, not the end of the world. Your furnace is off the bedroom, and I think that's the only access. So technically, you can't call this a legal bedroom because your furnace is right here. But you might be able to configure some things a little differently to fix that. So I don't know how much of a pain it would be, but if you could turn that furnace around and kind of face it into the living room area, we'll walk around right here. Put your closet right here for access to the furnace. Then you have a legal bedroom back there, no problem. You could even put a little access door for the water heater right here if you need one. But you just can't have your only door into the furnace area off the bedroom. And then this bedroom also doesn't have the nice egress window. So again, if it's grandfathered in, technically, you know, you may not need it, but something to think about. You do have a closet back here for the bedroom, so it has a closet. Just, that's one issue right here, the door issue there. So again, it might not be a deal breaker, but something to think about, something to add into your costs and how all that's going to work, because it definitely could change things up a little bit renting it and how much rent you could get. It's not really a true 2-bedroom right now. You'd have to spend some money fixing it up. Okay, we're going to take a peek at the outside now. This is that door in between the 2 staircases. So you do have a 1-car garage. It's not huge, but it's decent. You've got a decent yard with a fence. One thing to always consider, the trees. Huge tree, but it's not dead, so that's good. At some point, you know, you might have some tree work. It's got some huge trees, and they can be very expensive if you need to remove them or even trim them. But for right now, they look okay. And then you kind of want to look at, okay, where's my tenant going to park, right? You've got a 1-car driveway coming up here because that truck is on the neighbors. It's that shared driveway. You've got this side of it. You've got the garage. So you might be in a situation where you have to have one person park on the street out front and one person park in the driveway, or they might get stuck and can't get out if someone's parking behind them. So that's something to consider too. I'm not trying to rip on your house, Brad, but there's a little bit of peeling paint right there. We're talking about the FHA loans and peeling paint, and there's some right there. Now, there's no guarantee the appraiser is going to see that and say, nope, property won't qualify, lead-based paint. But he could say that. Now, it's not an automatic deal killer either. So it's not like, oh, I shouldn't offer on this house because there's peeling paint there. You can always ask the seller to fix it. It's not a bank property, it's not a foreclosure, so the seller doesn't have to repaint the entire house. They can get the peeling paint off. They should use a company that's licensed for lead-based paint. You don't know it's lead-based paint, but it could be. And then just simply repaint that one spot is enough to get it to qualify for the loan, right? I mean, I'm not saying you should do this, but you could use white paint and paint that spot. FHA, the appraiser doesn't care what color the paint is. They just don't want peeling paint. Of course, you want to try to match it, but just for loan purposes, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to make sure there's no peeling paint on the outside of the house. And again, some appraisers might see it, some might not see it, some might call it out, some might not. So besides that, I don't see anything too crazy. The ceiling fan's missing a blade, so what? Who cares? There's some old cracks in the ceiling, shouldn't be a problem. Really, it's kind of a decent property for the house hack. So now we've seen the property, we've walked through it. I think we've looked at almost everything except this one closet. And people always ask to see the closets when I do my videos. So we have lots of flips and rental property videos too for our own properties. So if you want to see those, make sure you check out our playlist for our rentals and flips. But we've seen the property. So now why don't we go back to the office and run some numbers and see exactly what it would cost you, how much you could save, and how much it might be worth once you rented out the entire thing. Okay, so I'm going to show you how easy it is to look up the mortgage payment on this property. So I'm on Google right here. I just searched bank rate, mortgage amortization, amortization scheduler, schedule calculator with bankrate.com. So I just like bank rates better. So it takes you here, and it's super easy. I don't need a refi course. Type in your mortgage amount. So it's a $340,000 house. So we're just going to assume it's $340,000. You might have some down payment and different stuff, but we're going to do this real simple, real easy. If you're doing FHA, it's probably going to be close to there anyway. You might have 3.5% down, but then you'll have some upfront mortgage insurance. You might have some other costs built in. So your mortgage will be pretty close to that cost. Months, interest rate, probably do like 3% if you're living there right now. Calculate. There's your payment right there. It's that simple, $1,433.45. However, that is just your payment, principal and interest paid for the loan, not the taxes and insurance. We'll need to figure that separately, and we'll do that too. But here's your amortization schedule too, which means how much you pay off over the years. So here you can see your first payment, you pay $583 principal, $850 interest, and then this principal keeps going up every month, and the interest you pay goes down, and that's because the mortgage balance slowly goes down. So I talked about this before. There is no front-loaded interest rate or interest on a mortgage. You simply pay the interest rate, which is 3%, on whatever balance you owe. So the balance keeps going down, so that means you keep paying less interest. So that's how simple a mortgage is. The tricky part is just figuring out how much principal you pay based on the 30-year term and how long the loan is. So we figured out what the payments will be on the house. Now we want to try and figure out what it would rent for. So I just went to Zillow and searched Greeley houses for rent. It takes me right here. And this can kind of give you an idea of the whole area, how it clicked on something. But what we want to do is kind of get closer to our area to narrow it down. So you can just scroll in, maybe scroll out a little bit, get to where you want to be, and this will give you that area where that house is. And you can also come in here and limit how many bedrooms you have, how many bathrooms you have, all of that. But there aren't that many properties for rent, so I don't think we need to do that. We will do at least 2 bedrooms, and that will make it a little easier. So the basement will be 2 bedrooms, and we can look here and see what's for rent. So you have 2-bedroom apartment for rent, $995. Here's a 2-bedroom for $975. And you can see these are in big apartment buildings. So those might be a little cheaper than, say, renting the basement of a house. Here's an entire house for rent for $1,500 a month. 3 bedroom, 1 bath, and then we can keep scrolling down, seeing the different properties here and try to find. See, this is probably pretty similar. $12.50 a month, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, apartment for rent, but you can see it's in a house, so that's kind of what we're looking for. And then you'll see some crazy stuff like this, 5 bedroom, 2 bath, $2,400 a month. Yes, it's a 5 bedroom, but knowing the local market, I know that's a college rental, and that will demand higher rent than other properties. So that's why it's really important to know your market, gain experience learning rents and values and different intricacies in that market. And so we can keep scrolling down, seeing different prices, different properties, and eventually, you'll get an idea of what things will probably rent for. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through every property, but we're just going to look at this one right here. It was $12.50 a month, and you can see, it looks like it's an upstairs unit. 2 bedroom, 1 bath, main level of a duplex. So that gives us an idea of what the upstairs might rent for as a 2 bedroom, 1 bath upstairs unit. So then if we can't find a basement unit, we can estimate from that, what that would rent for. We can keep looking down here and see if we have any more. Let's see, those are all apartments. So you can go through here and get an idea of what rents are. Again, we can't go through every single thing, but based off that and my experience, I would say it's probably going to rent for $1,000 to $1,100 a month, being a basement apartment and having kind of a quirky floor plan right there. So that's what we'll go off. We'll also remember that $12.50 number up here as well, in case we want to, turn this place into a full-blown duplex rental at another point. I said we'd look at the numbers. Now we're going to take a look at the numbers and show you exactly what this house costs, what the rents will be, and what the mortgage will be too. Now, I usually do a whiteboard where I'm standing up and doing these numbers, and I completely forgot my camera today. So let me know if you like the whiteboard version or this version better. I'd love to hear that in the comments from our followers, but here we go. Mortgage payment. Your principal and interest will be $1,433, as we already saw. Now, you'll also have taxes. So property taxes are $1,301, I think, on this property a year, which is $108 every month. Insurance, I roughly estimated $200. It could be less than that. It just depends on the type of insurance you get, with it being rented, not rented, how that works out, but I erred on the high side for the insurance. And then we have mortgage insurance as well. So if you do an FHA loan, which we'll talk about when how much money you need down, well, you'll have mortgage insurance needed too, which is an added cost if you put less than 20% down. So your total payment is $1,981 on this property, assuming FHA, low down payment loan with all of these costs. So how much money will you need with that $1,981 payment? Well, like I said, if you do an FHA loan, you'll need 3.5% down, which is $11,970. You'll also have closing costs though. Closing costs cover your appraisal, lender fees, document fees, recording fees, flood certification fees. There's a lot of closing costs, and they're usually around 3% of the loan. So we rough estimated it at $10,000. However, there are ways to get this debt cost down less. So the total cash needed based on these numbers is about $22,000. However, you might be able to ask the seller to pay some of those closing costs. You might be able to find a lender who can get those closing costs lower. I said 3%, but 2 to 4% is a range. Sometimes you might be able to get down to 2%. And even for the down payment, if you're an owner-occupant, there might be down payment assistance programs where the state or certain grants will give you either no interest loans or money for that down payment. So there's lots of different options out there. Again, really good real estate agents, really good lenders can help you with that. So while $22,000 seems like a whole lot of money to a lot of people, you might be able to get that cost down quite a bit less with the right loan and program. All right, so the market rents, what will this rent for? We kind of looked at that. We're saying the basement rents for $1,100, and we're saying the base upstairs will rent for $1,250. Maybe we can get more, maybe not, but you always like to be a little conservative in your numbers just in case. So if we take those rents and we kind of look at what the payment will be after we apply them, if you lived upstairs and rented the basement, your payment would be $881 a month. That's pretty darn good for a $340,000 property. Now, you still would pay utilities after that, have some yard maintenance, things like that,
But if you rent a house, you still have those things as well. You still pay utilities, have to mow the lawn. Now, if you rent a small apartment, maybe not. But if you're renting a house, you still have those costs. And also, if your tenants are renting in the basement, now depending on how the units are set up, maybe they have separate meters for electric and gas, maybe not. Well, you could do a thing where the tenants don't have to pay utilities. You just pay them all yourself. But then you could probably raise that rent up higher if they're not paying any utilities. So you're kind of sharing that utility cost with the tenants as well, which is another bonus of house hacking. You're not paying all those utilities on your own. Now, if you move out and you're able to rent the entire place, you've got your mortgage, your rent will more than cover it, and you'll have $369 a month left over. Now, that's not your true cash flow. I talk a lot about it on my blog. We have other videos about it. Your cash flow is your rent minus your mortgage, vacancies, maintenance. So there's other costs that are involved. So you're probably not going to be making $369 every month. You'll have some other costs, but you'll still have a house that's making money, or at least breaking even, and you're paying down the mortgage. You have amazing tax advantages. It's gaining value. So it still shows the power of house hacking, even if you're not making a ton of money. And also realize we're in northern Colorado where prices are very high, rents aren't extremely high compared to those prices. So if you're in different markets, you can have much, much, much better numbers in these, much higher rent compared to the value too. But this is just an example in our market. So finishing this off, you buy for $340. Maybe you can get a better deal. Like I said, this is just one that popped on the market. I wasn't searching like crazy. You might be able to buy one below market value that needs a little more work, get a better deal. You can make some repairs on this property too. And since you're living upstairs, I warn people against doing repairs themselves on houses because it takes time away from your family. It can be a real drag. You underestimate how much time and work it takes. But if you live in the property, it's so much easier. You can make it fun with your family. You can force them to do manual labor with you. And so it's actually a better situation and can save you some money. So you basically buy it, make a few repairs, rent the basement, and then after 1 year, that's your requirement for an owner-occupant loan. On most loans, you can move out, rent the upstairs, and then do it all over again and keep doing this year after year to build a rental property portfolio with very little money down. Again, these numbers are for a specific property in Colorado. If you're in other areas that have cheaper properties, they'll take much less money. You might have much better rent-to-value figures and make more money, but this just shows the power, even in an expensive market where rents aren't quite as high as I would like to see them. And something else to consider too is we use an FHA loan, but you can also use low-down conventional loans, USDA loans, VA loans that have even lower costs and also might not have mortgage insurance, or you might be able to remove the mortgage insurance, which will save you another $240 a month that you could add on to the deal. So there's so many different ways to do real estate. It's really hard to talk about everything in one video, but I wanted to give an example of a real life property and how it would work for someone house hacking. Now, another point, like I said, you're not making a ton of cash flow, but you're also paying down that mortgage every month, which we showed in the bank rate calculators. You have tax advantage. You can depreciate the property. There's so many expenses you can deduct. And appreciation. The property will most likely go up in value over time. Now, properties can go down too, but over the history of the world, prices will go up given enough time. And in some markets like we have right now, they can go up significantly in a small amount of time. And with the leverage you used, you can have some amazing gains on the actual money you invested because you put so little money down. Now that we've looked at the numbers for rents and mortgages, something else we can look at is value and if you're getting a good deal or not. Now, this is the MLS, the multiple listing service that I can see as a real estate agent. Unfortunately, if you're not an agent, you can't see this, but you can have an agent who's helping you pull up comps for you. You can see some on Zillow, but they're definitely not as good. So it's really good to have either an agent have access to the MLS, help you with this, or be able to do it yourself. So what we're doing here is just looking at similar properties in the area and what they rent for versus what they've sold for or for sale. So we'll go through this real quick. Can't spend a ton of time on this, but we do have videos about how to value properties, how to figure ARV, which is after repaired value, appraisals, all of that great stuff if you want to find more information on how to do this. But for this first one, rents for $1,200, both 1 unit, 2 bedroom, 1 unit, 2 bedroom. basement rents for $900. So this might be a little lower than what we could rent ours for, and it sold for $335. So right on point with what our price is. Another one's under contract that is rented for $1,100 and $750. That's just a 1-bedroom in the basement, so that's a good sign. That shows us that ours might even be a little better deal. Here's one that sold for $336. Both 2-bedroom units, $1,080, $1,150 for rent, so very similar. Maybe a little bit lower, just depends on what we can rent ours for. Sold for $336, and that was back in March when prices were actually lower. Another one's under contract. It's rented for $1,200 and $1,100, and this also gives us an idea too of what rents might be besides just looking at Facebook or Zillow or Craigslist, which are other places you can look for rents. But this can show us too, and then we can go through here and see pictures and see, you know, what kind of shape it's in, what kind of finishes they did, how they were able to get those rents. So that's really cool as well when you're looking at comps, to be able to see, hey, exactly what they rented for. Here we can see what the basement looks like, and gives you a better idea of what you need to do to get those rents. And some of these might be under rented though, so there's so many different things going on with real estate. It is always a learning process. Here's another one that's under contract. That's what active backup means, for $350,000. It's a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom, but it only rents for $1,250, so a little bit more and a little bit higher price. So, and that's what you'll see with these properties. The higher the income, the higher the price. So here's another one under contract for $375, but they're getting $1,750 on one of those units, and that's because I think it's got 10-foot ceilings. Really, really nice property. As you can see, pretty high-end upgrade for a rental property, and it might have some second-story loft area too. That could be part of that as well. Oh, look at that square footage, 2,000 square feet. So yeah, so it's very big for a 2-bedroom. That's why they're getting more money. So you can see as the rents increase, your price increases as well. Here's another one renting for $1,500, $1,600 on each side. I don't know how they were able to get that much rent from it. And it says it's a handsome ranch. I'm not sure how handsome it is, but see, this is something we might be seeing right here. It certainly looks vacant in these pictures, right? Well, it could be they're putting estimated rents here, not the actual rents, and that's why it's good to read through all of these, look at the history and see what's going on, because if these are estimated rents in what we're seeing from the other comps, they could be way off, and I think that's what happened here, is those are estimated maybe and a little higher than they should be, but you can see it still sold for $376. A couple more here. This one has a 3-bedroom too. Rents are higher. It sold for $410. This is closer to the college too. So the closer to the college you get, the more property values will be worth as well. And then here's the last one. 2 3-bedroom units, rent for $1,600, under contract for $425. So that is kind of the top of the market, and it seems high to me, but it's good to look at all these comps. Kind of usually don't go with the very highest one, but somewhere in between. And like I said, I have other videos that go into exactly how to value these properties, how to really come up with a better number, and real estate agents should really be able to help you out with this as well. And for this kind of valuation, you probably want real estate agents who are familiar with income properties, investment properties, and how to value them, because it is not the same, as you can see, as valuing a single family home.
All right, thanks for watching. Really appreciate the comments, the likes, new subscribers. I hope you guys stick around for a while. I know real estate can seem intimidating at first. You're buying very expensive houses, but that's how I started, was buying one house at a time. And one thing I wish I would have done was maybe house hack when I was younger, or just stack rental properties by buying them over and over again every year as an owner-occupant. I still bought houses, I just lived in them for a very long time. But it's an amazing way to build wealth, an amazing way to buy properties when you're younger. And eventually, you know, you get to a point where things really start to snowball, you build wealth, and you know, you can have cool stuff like fun cars and different things. So real estate's been amazing for me, and this is one of the best ways to get started in real estate.